Start. We've got a couple of things we're going to talk about, and the first is a national campaign. It's called Grow National FFA Week. Jacob?
Yes.
Come on up. Everybody get over here, because we got the cameras going here, and they can't see all the way out there.
Well,
All right, hello everyone. My name is Jacob Hunter, and I'm the Animal Science Instructor for Central Campus High School. It's my first year with the school district, and we're very excited to be here today. Next week is National FFA Week. It is a national proclamation that we have today going on, just saying or telling everyone about our great program. And I do have a student that would like to talk because teachers tend to talk too long anyways. So, Lee.
Hi everyone, my name is Lee Thompson. I'm Secretary of the Des Moines FFA. We are all students that attend Central Campus High School here in Des Moines. We pull from schools all around the metro. We currently pull from 11 high schools. We have students enrolled from 11 high schools down at Central Campus. We are the only urban agriculture program in Iowa. We are the only urban FFA chapter in Iowa. We focus mainly on animal science and horticulture, so down at our campus we have a 10,000 square foot greenhouse as well as a barn and some inside classrooms. We have had 5 baby lambs born this season. We have a couple of baby calves on the way. We are the largest student-run greenhouse. We sell plants in the spring in our 10,000 square foot greenhouse. We all love it a lot. It's a lot of fun. And so we're just here to get a proclamation from the mayor.
Thank you very much. And I have to ask, are we starting to raise food and put it in the schools?
maybe eventually, yeah. It's only my first year, so there's only much you can do in this semester. So, hopefully.
I'm just urging sort of an expansion of the program here. But at any rate, congratulations, and our proclamation reads as follows. Grow National FFA Week, February 16th to 23rd, 2013. Whereas FFA and agricultural education provide a strong foundation for the youth of America and the future of food, fiber, and natural resources systems. And whereas FFA promotes premier leadership, personal growth, and career success among its members, and whereas agricultural education and FFA ensure a steady supply of young professionals to meet the growing demands in the science, business, and technology of agriculture. And whereas the FFA motto, learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve, gives direction of purpose to these students who take an active role in succeeding in agricultural education. And whereas FFA promotes citizenship, volunteerism, patriotism, and cooperation, therefore, I hereby designate the week of February 16th through the 23rd, 2013 is FFA Week, and let's give these young people a great big hand. It's going to be extra special when we get a picture. So
Great.
let's let the students hold it. Let's tighten out. And you and I'll be on either end.
Okay, sounds great.
You won. Eyes open. Now, hopefully I'll be able to read the rest of the evening, so this will be good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right. I see some folks out here, and I'd like to have them come up and let's, Joe, everybody, let's talk about LULAC. I'm doing well. Joe, are you the spokesperson?
I am.
I'm going to give you the microphone.
Well, thank you, Mayor. This is the second time that we've received a proclamation from the city, the League of United Latin American Citizens. Our organization was founded in 1929 on February 17th. The purpose of our organization then, as it is now, to fight for civil rights of Latinos and also to help young Latinos get scholarships, get into education. So we are very happy to get this proclamation. And as you know, the Latino community is a growing community in Iowa. We're at about 158,000 Latinos in the state. 1 out of every 4 kids in Des Moines schools is a Latino. And if you're not already related to a Latino, you soon will be. So we're glad to be here. Thank you.
As a young citizen of Des Moines, Iowa,
Yes.
I want to say thank you for this opportunity, Mayor. And it's very important that we, as a community, acknowledge our brothers and sisters. And Joe's right. Every time you go into a Latino restaurant, you're part of our family. Thank you.
Our proclamation for this occasion reads as follows. Whereas 84 years ago, the founders of the League of United Latin American Citizens, better known as LULAC, joined together to establish an organization that would become the largest, oldest, and most successful Hispanic civil rights and service organization in the United States. And whereas, since its inception on February 17, 1929 in Corpus Christi, Texas, LULAC has championed the cause of Hispanic Americans in education, employment, economic development, and civil rights. And Latinos are now the fastest growing minority population in Iowa, with 158,000 residents as of 2011, an 84% increase from the 2000 U.S. Census, which makes the Latino population 5% of Iowa's 3 million residents. And in Polk County, the Hispanic Latino population grew by almost 98% since 2000 to 32,647 residents. Overall, Latinos make up 7.6% of Polk County's population, and LULAC has had a presence in Central Iowa since 1957, when it was formed as the Latin American Club, and today includes 4 councils with more than 300 members statewide. And whereas the Des Moines-based LULAC Council has always fought for Latino rights through speaking at city council meetings, actively recruiting Latinos and Latinas to run for public office, and lobbying to increase the number of Hispanic teachers, firefighters, police officers, which resulted in the Des Moines Police Department in the 1980s eliminating certain restrictions that limited Latinos from becoming police officers. And whereas Iowa LULAC members today continue the long tradition of LULAC in Iowa through fighting voter suppression, conducting the first ever analysis of the Latino voting community in 2012 that identified 35,000 registered Latino voters in the state, and rallying the Latino community to vote in record numbers on Election Day. And whereas this year, the League of the United Latin American Citizens will celebrate 84 years of community service to increase educational opportunities and improve the quality of life for Americans. Now, therefore, I, the Mayor of the City of Des Moines, on behalf of our City Council and the citizens of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the week of February 17th to 23rd, 2013 is Iowa LULAC Week, and we urge all of our citizens to celebrate that occasion. And let's give all of our representatives here a great big hand.
And we'll take a quick photo. Does everybody type? No.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Good to see you so soon.
All right, our City Council meeting is going to start here shortly. Municipal Housing Agency Governing Board for February 11th. And I'll ask quickly the clerk to take roll, please.
County.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Grease.
Here.
Mahaffey.
Here.
Hensley. Here. Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2 on our agenda is setting the date of hearing on the amendment on the Municipal Housing Agency annual budget for the current fiscal year ending June 30, 2013. And that hearing will be February 25th of 13. Is there anybody here in the audience to either discuss or give us any ideas on that? If not, that hearing will be the 25th of February. Could we have a motion, please? It's been moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 passes. Item 3 is setting the date of hearing on the proposed Municipal Housing Agency annual budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2014. That hearing will also be on February 25th of 13. Anybody in the audience or our board members have any comments on that or like any clarification? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
Move.
It's been moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Could we have a motion to adjourn the governing board meeting?
Move.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We should adjourn. Thank you. We'll start the other meeting in about 2 minutes.
So I had to go to break.
Future Farmers of America.
I didn't know that they had it in the city, so it was interesting here that we only urban one that's out there.
I want them to start raising food and put it in the lunchrooms.
That's really cool. That would be really cool if they did that one.
Well, we had a All right. Prior to the start of our meeting today, I want to make a quick announcement that at the generally, or not generally, but occasionally, we meet up at the legislature on Wednesdays to discuss issues that are pertain to the city and things that we think maybe we ought to reach out to our legislature on. I just want everyone to know, including our council members, that on Wednesday of this week there will be no meeting, and we will conduct our first meeting on the 20th, which will be next Wednesday. So those of you that are interested, we'll be up there about 7:30 a.m. To conduct a discussion of things going on in the Iowa legislature and things that we need to either have concern or reach out on. So wanted to let everybody have that notice, including our friends here from the media. Prior to our beginning of the city council meeting, we often have a message from one of our council members, and tonight our council member Hallie Grease is going to give us a quick invocation, and we would ask anybody that would participate, we'd ask you to stand at this time.
Please join me in prayer. God, we thank you afresh today, God, that you love us, not just as a friend, but as a father and a savior. God, we thank you that you love your children unconditionally, even in spite of our weaknesses. We thank you, God, that you are not unsympathetic to our struggles, but that you know us, embrace us, and desire a relationship with us. God, I thank you today for my colleagues, which you have sovereignly placed in positions of leadership according to your purposes, equipped with diverse backgrounds and experiences that have prepared them to carefully deliberate the issues before us tonight. God, we thank you for the citizens here this evening, willing to invest their time to see our community bettered and to provide valuable insights into this evening's issues. It is with this heart of thankfulness, God, that we ask you to meet with us here, guide our decision-making and discourse tonight. We humbly ask for your wisdom in our deliberations. Let us exercise grace and understanding for the issues before us this evening. We ask you to join us tonight, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Ask clerk to take roll, please. Call the meeting to order.
County,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Moore, Reese, Mahaffey, Hensley,
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Following the roll, I'll ask item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended. I'll ask for a motion for that.
Moved.
It's been moved. Any amendments? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda. For those of you in the audience, those are items 3 through 47 this evening. They are taken as one roll call vote, and generally we would not discuss each item. However, on occasion there are items that are pulled out by city council members and for separate discussion, either that or a member of the audience. So if anybody has anything for other discussion or clarification, we'd ask for that at this time. Currently, item 5, council members County and Moore vote no. Item 9 and 39, Councilmember Hensley wishes to speak. Are there any other items, again, 3 through 47, that anyone would like to have pulled for further discussion or clarification? Sir.
Item 45, is that getting approved or?
2048.
Would you like to have that pulled for discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Item 45, been asked to have further discussion.
Mayor, if there's nothing else, I'll move it. I did have one thing to add, and that is I'm a no vote on 4I. I didn't arrive in time to submit that. I apologize.
I'll move the rest.
Okay. Been moved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Takes us to item 9. Item 9 is a public improvement authorizing the execution of the Iowa Department of Transportation IDOT agreement for the downtown bicycle implementation phase 1. Council communication number 13-55. Mrs. Hensley.
Thank you, Mayor. You and I attended a meeting at the partnership last week, and we had a chance to talk with representatives from the biking community and city staff regarding this particular project, and it's one that we've been working on for a while. We have the funds. We learned at the meeting last week, though, that the actual striping, the restriping of the downtown streets will actually occur after RAGBRAI, just not a long time after RAGBRAI, probably a week or two after RAGBRAI. So I know that Jennifer has been working hard with IDOT, and they've allowed us to jump through some extra hoops by consolidating. But I'd just like to have us send a letter on behalf of the mayor and council asking and making them aware that RAGBRAI is coming through, and it seems we should do everything possible to make sure it does happen in time for RAGBRAI, that it would be beneficial for everybody if that were the case. So my motion would be to have a letter from the mayor and council asking, knowing, acknowledging that they're already working with us, but if there's any way possible they could ensure that we get this done in time for RAGBRAI, that we would greatly appreciate it.
All right. Any discussion? We have a motion.
I'll move 9.
Seven yes.
All right, takes us to item 39, which is approving a memorandum of understanding with WestPet, West Des Moines, Urbandale, and Clive Joint Animal Control for sharing of rabies vaccination information. Council Communication number 13-46, Mrs. Hensley.
This is great regional cooperation. I know the city clerk has worked hard on this. It took a long time to get us to this point, but I would really hope that this would be the first step in looking at how we can continue to work as it relates to animal control. And so just make that maybe as we move down the road 6 months from now, we can have a report back. Are there other options for us to continue exploring, because it is a very positive step. I'll move 39.
Meaning other areas of regional cooperation?
Well, I'd love other areas, but I'm focusing on animals right now.
As we vote on this, I will just mention to everybody that I have had some updated conversations with some mayors from our regional area around sister cities. So I'm gonna be bringing a report back to the council and also our sister city commission as a follow-up to those discussions. And I think it sounds pretty positive. Everybody, I think, is thinking along the same lines that we are. Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
Okay, takes us to item 45. Ordinances for final consideration. Item 45 is on the rezoning of 2040 East Walnut Street from R160, one-family low-density residential, to limited C2 general retail and highway-oriented commercial. And this would be a final vote and final consideration for passing. So, sir.
My name is Trent Smith. I'm the guy that did that's asking for it. I apologize. I misunderstood what you said from the very beginning, but if I'm available for any questions, I really apologize.
No,
You
no
want it
apology
passed.
needed.
Yeah, I want it to pass, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that has the application in.
Okay.
I'm the owner of the building.
All right. And I think we have passed it twice so far, and this is the third reading.
Yeah, I apologize.
No problem.
I'll move 45.
45 has been moved.
Seven yes.
All right, you're ready to go.
Thank you again.
You bet.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, that takes us to item 48, ordinances first consideration. Item 48 is amending Chapter 114 of the Municipal Code regarding traffic regulation changes as follows. This is Council Communication number 13-49. A is a passenger loading and unloading restrictions. B is revisions to loading zones near the downtown school. C is additional metered parking adjacent to the ING building. D is additional metered parking adjacent to the Des Moines Register building. E is passenger loading and unloading on Park Street between 7th and 8th Streets. And F is a revision to match the municipal code with current field conditions at East 15th and Garfield. Is there anybody in the audience to discuss or question or clarify anything on these items, 48A through F?
Seeing none, Mayor, I'll move 48A through F and request that we waive second and third reading based upon non-pre-published.
Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
All right. Item 49 is communication and a report, and this is a request from David Costello of 1105 Orchard Lane to speak regarding homelessness in the community and its relation to our state's approach to mental health. Mr. Costello.
Yes, David Costello, 1105 Orchard Lane here in Des Moines. First of all, I think you're all doing a wonderful job as our leaders in our community. A couple rough spots, but I think you're doing a wonderful job. And regarding your effort to evict the homeless, I support you wholeheartedly, because all of us here in Des Moines realize that that's no way for a human being to have to live in this day and age. Some people say, well, that's their choice, or they're drunks or alcoholics. But the leading cause of homelessness, bar none, anybody that studied it, is mental illness. And our state does a terrible job with its approach to mental health. We're clear down towards the bottom of the barrel if you compare all states in our per capita spending on mental health. And the result of that failure is down on our rivers. And you all know that several years ago I was pretty active in that. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of patience, and a lot of persistence, and I burned out. I just got too thin spiritually. I started being critical of the churches, then I got critical of you folks, then I got critical of the homeless people themselves. Why do they have to keep drinking or whatever? So my recommendation to you, I got two. One, everybody in this room has needed help at one time or another. These people need our help. And I'd recommend that we put together a plan, that you put together a plan to sort of like make them pay rent. And the rent is they have to go work with some people, whether it's primary health or Central Iowa Shelter, work with them to put a plan together to get back on their feet. They have X amount of time to finish that plan. And then we help them implement it.
Saying maybe volunteer, David?
I'd be willing to volunteer.
No, are they? You're asking them?
Well, that's the price of admission. If they're going to rent, if they're going to live down there on property, we want to help them, but they have to be able to help themselves also. So if they don't pay their rent, we move them on down the road, or reunite them with their family or whatever. But if they don't want to help themselves, how are they helping our community? How are we helping them? The second thing, I recommend you go talk to our state leadership. And I know that's a little bit of a bumpy spot for us sometimes, especially when we deal with our governor. But I really believe our governor is a compassionate man also. But he needs to be educated to the fact that until we step up, our state steps up to our mental illness problem, our mental health approach, we're going to continue to have homelessness. We're going to continue to have things like that. So I encourage you, talk to our leadership. And it looks to me like what I'm reading in the press, that Polk County is going to have less resources available this next year than we have this year. And we're not doing an adequate job this year. So it's a problem. It's a problem that's going to keep growing until we step up to it. So thank you for your time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Dave.
David, thank you. Motion to receive.
Motion to receive and file David's comments.
Seven yes.
Item 50 is from the Highland Park SMID, Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District Board, regarding the recommended budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2013. Are there representatives here to present, or are we just receiving the report? Seeing none, let's have a motion to receive their report regarding their recommended budget.
So move.
It's been moved. Mr. Coleman?
7 yes.
That should just be part of the motion, Mr. Coleman.
Can't I
Okay.
authorize my vote, just give proxy vote to somebody?
Hearings will not start till 5 o'clock, so we will move now to item 58, approving communication presenting conceptual assistance package with Principal Financial Group for campus-wide renovations, and approving submittal of an Iowa Economic Development Authority business financial assistance application on behalf of the Principal Financial Group, Council Communication number 13-070. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor and council members, you heard a presentation this morning at the workshop from Matt Anderson about the proposal from Principal to invest $400 million ultimately in their campus in downtown Des Moines. This is obviously great news for the city, not only because it represents an investment in their existing property, but also because it represents for us a confirmation, perhaps their commitment to this city and the jobs that they're providing to be here for a long period of time. A couple of things, maybe just to provide some context to this, and this is, for me, an important point. Downtown Des Moines has experienced in recent years a rather dramatic reduction in the value of some of our major office buildings. Last year, we used the number 27% reduction in property values for our big office buildings. Some of them are vacant. Downtown is doing really well, but in this one particular aspect, the loss of values in our downtown properties are significant and profound. There's one example I dug out today, and I think I've shared with some of you. There's one major building downtown that's lost 65% of its property value over the last 4 or 5 years. Those are significant numbers. So when a business of this magnitude comes along and says, we're going to invest $400 million in their property, it is very significant. It's a major commitment to the city. And frankly, it's not only the preservation of those 6,000 jobs that they have today, but it's also the preservation of tax base and the really great potential to increase the amount of taxes that this company will provide over a period of time. The City Council is being asked tonight to provide what's called a conceptual approval, which is shorthand for saying this will be back in front of you for final approval in contract form. But conceptually, essentially the package that's being recommended by staff is 50% of the TIF revenue that's generated by the addition to the project. Now, or by the investments that they're proposing to make here. A couple things about that. There is really no upfront cash that's being provided. We don't issue bonds, as somebody said to me earlier. There's not upfront cash that's being provided. The entire amount of the incentive is generated from new taxes that would be paid by Principal over a period of years, and then the city would, under this proposal, rebate about half of those taxes. Another way of saying that is that from the very beginning, the new taxes that are generated, half of those go back to the city and to our taxpayers. So there is benefit from the beginning. There's no tax abatement. We often provide tax abatement, but there's not tax abatement here. So this is a win-win in many different ways. We are pleased that it's on the agenda. It's a major investment. And we talked this morning, I won't go into all the detail about some of the tertiary impacts, but the impact on the immediate surroundings, on Keogh Way, on the properties within several blocks of the Principal campus can all be great and positive. There's the 7th and Grand parking garage, which the city owns, which is near the end of life. That parking garage needs to be replaced. This project will make it easier for us to do that. So it's, we strongly recommend this to you. It's a great statement, I believe, in our city and our downtown, and I think bodes well for the future of not only our downtown, but the city as a whole.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are we going to have, do you want us to speak or?
I think we should. I think that Mr. Clark has pretty much outlined it. I don't know that there's anybody else that wants to say anything. No? Go ahead.
Thank you. I would just like to echo the city manager's comments and everything he's laid out here for us, but there's one other significant piece, I guess really two. Principal is doing this because of their desire and interest in being competitive to recruit and retain employees. And the whole demographics of campus structures have changed dramatically. And this will allow them to do that. If we stop and remember the building, I wouldn't say it's obsolete, but it was built in a time when the workflow was much different than it is today. So it gives us a chance to really provide those upgrades. And not only are we talking internally about the employees, but we also have to stop and think about a $400 million project in totality and what that means for job creation within our community. I know I asked that question this morning and they got back to us. And if you add up the number of jobs that provides in the next 5 to 6 years, it's almost 1,900 jobs in the construction industry. So that is really very significant. And lastly, and we've not talked about it, but I think it's important to remind the community and talk about the significant philanthropic contribution that Principal has had. We can talk about the Riverwalk, which that started out as a $25 million project and ballooned to $60 million, of which Principal played, that was their project from the get-go, and they continued to work with us on that. And if you look at all of the other projects that they've been involved with, and I don't believe there's a nonprofit in the city of Des Moines that has not been touched in a positive way by Principal Financial Group with their contributions. So they're great corporate citizens. I'm excited about their commitment, long-term commitment to the community, and applaud what they're doing to improve their facility.
Chris?
Because of my work commitments, I had to miss this morning's meeting, but I did want to say that I had a chance to talk to some members of Principal about this, and I have a understanding of the deal. Here's how I would characterize it. It's important for people to know that the incentive that we're giving them does not come from the existing taxes that are paid today. I think a lot of times people get confused when we talk about a major economic development, but the taxes that they pay today will continue to fund the basic government services that are now being provided with the revenue that we get from Principal, which is significant. We're talking about spending some of the new taxes that they generate for this. And there's some additional incentives for sustainability and other incentives for doing a high-profile, high-quality job on this. That's number one. The second thing, and I just want to say this because there are doubters, and you read the blogs and the things that you can see at the bottom of stories and in the media. Here's what I say to that. I am absolutely confident that if we were to vote no today, 5 years from now, people would call us foolish. It would be the worst decision that the city ever made to turn its back on what has been the best corporate entity supporting the city's goals by expanding here, employing people here, supporting what we do. I think this is a home run, and I think we'll look back on this, even though there's not, a bunch of demolition and, new structures going up like some of the other downtown stuff. We're going to look back at this and say this was one of the smartest things the city did in this generation.
There was an email that came out this morning that I forwarded to a few people, and they got to see it, and the gentleman quoted himself saying that he was choking on a cereal as he read the article in the paper yesterday. I think he's totally wrong. I agree with what both Christine and Chris have said, and it's not only a home run. I believe this is a grand slam. And to repurpose these buildings, you talk about sustainability at its best. And if people think for $400 million they couldn't go to another community around here and build new, they sure could. And I'm very proud of the fact that Principal has decided to do this. I'm proud of the fact that you're thinking about the ergonomics of the employees that work for your corporation. And it shows that it's more than a compensation package nowadays. The employees want a great atmosphere to work in, and Principal realizes this. So I applaud you for this and support it 100%.
I'll move 58 if nobody else has comment.
All right, as we vote, I'll just voice additional support. I think the other message it sends not only to the employees, as Skip and everybody has pointed out, and the jobs that it'll create for local workers to improve buildings that are in place, but it raises the bar in downtown Des Moines, not only for our local workers and what the future of our downtown looks like, because a lot of people move out of downtowns because they have old buildings and they haven't been kept up and they don't look like they belong. In this case, in the 21st century, Principal is making a huge statement about the future of Des Moines, about the future of downtown, and not only to their own employees, but to the rest of the employers in downtown. And I think it's a huge, huge statement. I mean, we could build new buildings, and as some other folks have done, and my hats off to those people as well. But to repurpose these good, grand old buildings in downtown Des Moines and their headquarters that's now heading on 80 years old, and to turn it into a absolute state-of-the-art performer for the 21st century, I think speaks volumes about what the possibilities are and what the future of downtown Des Moines has, not just for this generation, but for future generations. So thank you, Principal, and thank you, City Council, and thank you, citizens and employees of Principal. Mr. Coleman.
You want me to vote? Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Be nice.
7 yes.
Mr. Coleman, I am going to quickly turn this over to you so you can give us a quick report and update on the City Council Personnel Subcommittee regarding the annual review of our direct reports. Give us a quick overview of the overall process. B, the recommendation regarding our city manager, Rick Clark. C, the recommendation regarding our city clerk, Diane Rao. And D, regarding our city attorney, Mr. Jeffrey Lester.
At all of your places and online is a memo from the committee to each of us to kind of memorialize kind of a summary of our interactions with our staff. And I say it's a summary, but the citizens should know, and I hope all of you pay close attention to the fact that you know, I think one of them's 15 pages long. We did a lot of work with our employees, and we're very proud of the process that we went through. I understand we're in a time crunch in terms of getting to the hearings, but there are some things that I would like to highlight, and I would like to put in public record, specifically some of the compensation changes that I think are important that everybody know we're doing. Obviously, this is all on the website, on our agenda, and anybody can check it. But basically, the committee is very satisfied, enthusiastic about the service and leadership we get from City Manager Rick Clark, City Attorney Jeff Lester, and City Clerk Diane Rao. We feel as though we have a very competent leadership team that is driving the city to great results. And I want to make sure that nothing is communicated contrary to that, because we feel very, very good about that. In terms of compensation first, there are a number of things about their package that we're increasing equally. So I've said this a couple of times from this microphone, but I want to reiterate it. There was never an effective raise or compensation change January 1st of 2012. So they have a raise of 2% for 2012 and 2% for 2013. Your paperwork says that there is a 2% raise to the base salary in 2012 and a one-time payment increase in 2013, and I think Bob saw that. Do you want to say anything here, Bob?
Yeah, I didn't understand it that way, and in talking with some of the others, I thought that the bonus, the 2%, should be for the 2011 January, and then as a bonus one-time payment and the 2% would be effective of January 2013.
Yeah. I think you meant 12.
12.
You said,
Did I say 12?
you said 11
Oh,
once.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 12 and 13, yeah.
So I know that is a slight change of pennies, I think, in terms of the overall package. There are a couple of other things that I'd like to highlight about compensation. One is each of them have a deferred compensation plan, and one of the things that we wanted to do was strengthen their reason for staying and continuing to contribute, and we're going to raise our contribution to that by 5%. We are encouraging, and this is in detailed writing in your packet and part of the roll call, an attachment to the roll call, but the committee digs into some things that we don't talk about here very often, and one of the things that we've recognized is the continued concern we have about vacation banks of our city employees, and we've tried to drive that down. There's a policy that Mr. Clark established several years ago about a cap. We'd like that cap to continually be lowered, and because the value of that vacation because it becomes more valuable over time, we're authorizing the 4 of them to cash out of up to 4 weeks of that at today's dollars instead of inflated dollars down the road. That's a change. We are also very concerned about the ongoing health care cost for our employee group, the thousands of employees that are part of our health care group. They currently pay 10% copay of their plans. And we are going to raise that to 50. Our proposal is that we raise that to 15%. That's well above any of the other employee groups, but we think for us to effectively manage long-term the city's fiscal climate, we're going to have to get all employees to share a greater burden than what they are today. And so we're making this recommendation so that the people that report to the 7 of us, the mayor and council, are leading by example, and the decisions that we make drive them there. There is also an opportunity for our direct reports to reduce that amount by participating in the city's wellness plan and remaining smoke-free. Both of those have a direct impact on our healthcare cost. It's a program that Human Resources and Mr. Clark are championing. It's been part of his review and part of his goals going forward. And so we're allowing them to participate the same way. So their health insurance would go from 10 to 15, and if they participate in the plan and remain smoke-free, it would go back down to 12.5. Still an increase, but not as much. Mr. Clark has a retention plan that was started just after he became city manager. That will continue. Last year it increased by $2,500. For now it's going to increase by $1,000 for each of the next couple of years. He doesn't get that unless he stays through June 30th of each of the next 3 years. Likewise, we're very pleased that Mr. Lester is here, and we've extended him a similar plan for over the next 5 years. He can grow a pot that is $10,000 total. He won't be vested in that until the end of the 5th year, which I think is June 30th of 2017. But at that time, that's a little incentive for him to stay and continue his work, which we very much appreciate. Those are the highlights of the compensation package. There's more details in here. I want to be respectful of your time, but I beg you to take a look at the memo that we sent. The staff, or the committee, and I've skipped over this, but it's Mr. Mahaffey, Ms. Hensley, and myself, along with the mayor that serves and helps lead it. We pushed our 3 direct reports to do a critical evaluation of their last year. They submitted a report that's included in my memo, much of it, and some specific goals for the future. And I really would like you to take a look at those, because basically, I think, while the compensation might be something that the employees look forward to, the most important thing is our endorsement today of those goals going forward that the committee, has already affirmed and looked at. And in everybody's packet, there is a Yeah. In everybody's packet, I've divided the letter for each of them into categories, and there's a full section specific, so it's easy to identify what those goals are. I would say that there's two goals that we put in here. One that the council has talked about as a whole, that is this concept of we need to improve the training orientation of board, commission, and the people that support it, along with looking backwards at old opinions and policies and procedures. We've talked about that. We put that in there as a marker to really make progress on that in 2013. The second one is really important to the council committee, and that is a response to some feedback that we got as we were going through this process, that it's probably a good idea to take a breather and take a step back and talk about how does the council interact with our direct reports. You know, what is that kind of code of conduct that we all abide by as we interact with staff and so forth. You know, I think all of us feel really strong about the output of the city, all the outcomes and the accomplishments. But sometimes we stumble over ourselves and, knowing who to go to and what to say when and how to get things done. I think all those are things that we should be very attentive to. And I think all of us, myself included, at different times have probably not used city personnel, treated them right, all the kinds of things that go into developing a high morale and people committed to the same goals. So we've put into the letter that we want to establish a code of conduct. We've talked to Mr. Clark a little bit about how that might be done, and he's going to get back to us as to whether or not we think that we should internalize that with our own people, or is there a small little consultant that could help us through this on a really defined small contract. So we're going to continue to pursue that, but that's really important. I've covered a lot here, and maybe it would have been better if I would have just taken 20 minutes and read you my memo that I wrote, because I have very high regard for the work that our employees have done, and all of them received extraordinary marks from the committee. We are very privileged as a city. And a couple of things that I want to point out that doesn't often get noticed, and it doesn't ever show up in a list of accomplishments. You know, this task or this committee, finished its work. These three show up with smiles on their faces. They lead a team around here that works a lot of hours and overtime, deals with frustrated people. Nonetheless, they model the very best of customer service and pride in our city and our enterprise that we would ever want. That's number one. And number two, from top to bottom, the committee continues to be impressed with their work ethic. And I wish I could get anybody that's ever complained about bureaucrats working and, cushy government jobs. I wish every one of them could follow these 2-3 people around for a day and see how hard they work. The mayor was telling a story to me that occasionally he's here after our meetings long enough signing all the official documents that by the time he gets done and is ready to leave, Mr. Lester's already left City Hall, gone home, eaten, fed the dog, and come back to work some more at 9 o'clock at night. We have a great team. Unfortunately, because we all have jobs and are busy during the day, Mr. Clark has to make himself available 24/7. I'll bet 20 times a year I talk to him after 10 o'clock or on a Saturday, and all that is appreciated, and it's impressive that you bring that kind of work ethic to your positions. Please read the documents, look at those goals, and I would welcome the other members of the committee to speak, and I certainly would welcome Mr. Lester and Mr. Clark and Ms. Rao to speak.
I'd just like to, there's not one thing that Chris Coleman has said that I disagree with. I was looking here trying to figure out the amount of time that we've actually spent on this the last couple of weeks. And I conservatively estimate it's probably been 10 to 12 hours for the committee as a whole. But I know the amount of time that you've spent pulling together all the documents and the report and stuff, you could probably add another 2 or 3 hours at least to that, and plus all the one-on-one interviews you've had just trying to get information ready for us. So thank you as the chair of the committee. We love having you chair as the committee. But, you know, you learn so much when you go through this process, and I really feel this time more so than in the past. And it's not that the previous times have not been good, but there was such good discussion with all of the employees, with Rick, Jeff, and Diane, really gaining an understanding of what it is that they're doing, what are the issues, how can we be of assistance, where do we create problems for them, and how can we address that. And I would echo Chris's comments. There's just a wealth of information in the documents that have been put together. And as Diane said, as she concluded, she said, boy, I was surprised at everything we'd gotten done. And I think everybody's really surprised at what they're able to get done when they actually have to go back through and summarize it. So great jobs. Really proud to work with you and be a part of the team here at the city.
I would agree with everything that Chris, Dean, and Mr. Coleman has offered. I think that we need to thank Mr. Coleman for all the extra work, for preparation, getting things ready for us from meeting to meeting, and his extra time that he spent with some of the other department heads doing that. I don't remember whether Mr. Coleman covered this or not, but the bonus, so to speak, for 2012 as a result, they did not get a raise in 2012. So this here is to compensate them somewhat for us not giving a raise in 2012. So I think this is a very good offering, and you know, we just can't say enough about the quality of employees we have here at the city. So.
Anybody else? All right, either Diane or Jeff or Rick, any comments?
Well, Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to point out that the placement of the Personnel Subcommittee report right after presentation of the biggest economic development project in the city's history was pure happenstance, but I guess that's the luck of the draw.
Mayor, I think you might have a speaker.
Speaker? Are there any other folks who would wish to speak this evening? All right, you're it, Joe.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, council members, Joe Galloway, 3622 Davison Road here in Des Moines. First, I want to commend all the city employees for doing just a great job, both the three that are discussed here and all the employees. They're really great. It makes me really proud to be associated in just a little way with such a great team. Regarding Mr. Clark, he continues to be a hands-on city manager. He comes to our executive committee meetings after hours, as Chris pointed out, and we're in communication with him throughout the month by email and phone, and he's really hands-on and a pleasure to work with. Several months ago, he came to one of our meetings, and boy, some of the park board members really put him through the third degree, really asking him tough questions. And boy, I thought, oh man, he's never going to come back again to these meetings after being pounded on.
He's used to it.
But sure enough, he keeps coming back, so we really appreciate that. But don't just take my word for it. I want to read you some of the awards that Des Moines has gotten just in the last year, 2012. Sort of a top 10, working backwards. Number 10. For Most Educated Young Workforce by the Business Journal. Number 4, Best Place for Business and Careers, Forbes Magazine. Number 2, Best City for Jobs During the Summer, again, Forbes Magazine. Number 2, Best Cities for Jobs, again, by Forbes Magazine. And last but not least, number 1, Best City for Families by Kiplinger. Now, some of the people who are watching on TV may not know what Kiplinger is. It's not a mass media publication. They don't sell advertising, they just sell content. It's kind of an insider's publication, so in a way that makes that award even more impressive to get a #1 award from them. So that speaks really loudly about the great job that the entire team is doing. As far as the compensation package, if you look at comparable organizations, it's a bargain. Even if the team members were just doing an average job, it's a bargain. But they're not doing an average job, they're doing an extraordinary job. So that's really a good deal that they've been offered. Now, one last thing, I'd like to mention Diane Rao, the city clerk. There's some things that you might not know. To help balance the budget, she shares a customer service person with the Parks Department. On her own time, she comes to dog parks and volunteers to help sell dog passes. And also during our bridge event last July for National Parks Month, she helped man a booth there. So those are all things she does that's above and beyond the call of duty that I thought you should know. But anyway, it's a great team, and I hope you keep the team together. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, if it's appropriate, I'll move items 59A, which happens to be the piece that I mailed you before that includes more of the details about compensation, B, C, and D.
With the amendment?
With the amendment that will swap the order of those. Bob's amendment. And while we're voting, I would like to just make a special note of thanks to James Wells, who helped secure a lot of the information, did some comp studies, looked at some things for us to assist us in the process. So thanks, James, very much.
7 yes.
All right. That takes us back to the hearings. We'll note that they begin at 5:17. Item 51, on the proposed 12th Amendment to the Metro Center Urban Renewal Plan, Council Communication number 13-048. Is there anybody in the audience to comment on the
Did you see his first thing?
12th Amendment to the Metro Center Plan?
It's on the front page of the register. Right?
Seeing none, any discussion at the table?
I'll move 51.
Been moved.
Seven yes.
Yeah.
Item 52, on the proposed Fifth Amendment to the Southeast Agribusiness Urban Renewal Plan, Council Communication number 13-047. Anybody here to speak about the Agri-Emergent Urban Renewal Plan?
I'll move 52 and include a motion that Coleman votes.
Thank you.
A motion that what?
Soon you'll have to just
Coleman
include
votes.
Oh, Coleman votes. All right.
In a timely fashion. Every week.
Bob?
I had my head buried in our reports about the staff. Sure that I remember.
7 yes.
Now I'm back in the game.
All right.
Item 53 was withdrawn at the request of Mr. Sarcone. So it takes us to item 54. A request from Jake Christensen to rezone 200 and 220 Southeast 6th Street from M1 light industrial to M2 heavy industrial to limited C3B central business mixed use to allow for the development of up to 60 residential units subject to conditions. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none.
I would just like to make a comment about this. I appreciate Jake giving me the information it's been, Jake's going for the CDBGR funding source that's available. But this really is the first major development, and I was able to look at the stuff that he gave me. If this goes through, it will be the first major development in the market district that we've been working on now for 2 or 3 years, and it's a great project, Jake, and I appreciate you getting me the information, so I will move 54A and B.
A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration. It was waivers requested by the applicant, requires 6 votes. Yes.
I'd like to make comment on this, and I support this project, but I hope that Jake understands if you're fruitful with this and it's completed, that you're going to be right next to the Public Works compound, and that's a 24/7 operation with a lot of noise going on down there. And I know that the Historic East Village brought up the issue of noise. Hopefully, if you get this built, we're not going to have residents coming back telling us that they've got to quiet down in Public Works because backup alarms and stuff like that on trucks must operate.
And I think it's important to note, too, thanks for that, Councilman Moore, but it's important to note that our long-term goal is to obviously move Public Works out of there, and that's part of the whole plan, but it's a good point in the short term. But Rick, do you want to address when we're going to move Public Works at all?
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
And I think Jake may have something to say.
I think you said it very well. We're working on the first phase relocation for the Municipal Service Center. Our intention, of course, if the funds can be found, would be to move Public Works down there. I can't tell you the date for that, but it is certainly a high priority, and the whole area that Public Works and our fleet maintenance operations occupy at present represents areas that really ought to be developed for different use, and we can do a much better job with our Public Works operations as well. So it does make sense to relocate it. The when and how and so on has to be determined, but it's the direction we need to go.
Jake?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Jake Christensen, 506 3rd Street. I appreciate the kind words and the motion to speak directly to Councilman Moore's comments. I've got experience in developing numerous residential applications in downtown Des Moines, and I think many of the residents in buildings downtown might argue that the motorcycles going up and down Grand Avenue are much louder or intrusive than any kind of vehicle backing up. So with that, we know that we'd be pioneering in being the first project in the Lower East Village District. E300 and Liberty, to use 2 prime examples, we take a very responsible approach to the exterior skin in terms of the windows, the ceiling, the insulation. And so fire trucks, I lived in Liberty Building for 2 years, and fire trucks would go down, sirens blaring, you could barely hear them. So if it's done right, you really can mitigate it. I think more than that, it's very clear that this is an industrial district still, and it will be for some time. But I believe that Southeast 6th is an extremely important corridor to begin the kickoff of the Lower East Village. If it's a halfway point between Martin Luther King Parkway and East Court, and it becomes to be a waypoint in between those 2 places and allow pedestrians or bicyclists to be able to traverse that area and feel comfortable. But they're the first, if this building's successful, we would be the first ones, and it's clear that there's other uses there, so they would be going in with their eyes wide open. I think it's very evident it's an industrial area, so I appreciate the comments. We'll do our best to mitigate it, but I think got some open-minded urban dwellers. I think they'll be fine. So thank you.
Good luck.
Any other comments?
Well, I'll just comment that I want to congratulate Jake for moving into that area. He's kind of going into new territory down there, and hopefully it'll create a lot of other interest into that area as it grows over on down to MLK and that. So congratulations, Jake.
7 yes.
Takes us to item 55, an item regarding property at 501, 509, 513 Forest Avenue, hatched development to allow for the development of 41 residential units subject to conditions. A is amending the Des Moines 2020 Community Character Land Use Plan to revise the future land use from low-density residential to commercial, pedestrian-oriented commercial corridor. B is a hearing on the rezoning of the property from R160, one-family low-density residential, and C1 neighborhood retail commercial to NPC, neighborhood pedestrian commercial. C is the first consideration of this ordinance, and D is the final consideration of the ordinance. The waiver is requested by the applicant. and requires 6 votes, and we have a speaker.
I'm Carol Bauer with Hatch Development, 1312 Locust, Des Moines, Iowa. And we had presented this plan, the one you see on the screen, to P&Z and to the council that was approved for NPC. Since those recommendations were made and the approval was done, we did have one person who was concerned about Forest Avenue being a snow ordinance route. And so just to prove that we really want to work with the city, or just not to prove that we want to work with the city, but to inspire some consideration for the project and the NPC zoning, we have positioned the parking so that we do have all 27 parking places that are required by NPC on site. So there will be no off-site required parking for NPC zoning. And I just wanted to point that out to you, that we can do it. It requires a little less green space, but we can get everything on the site as approved. So we're asking for your consideration of that at this time.
Right. Any comments, council members? Ellie?
I think this is a great project, Carol. Thanks for coming down. I think we've been working with 6th Avenue and Riverbend to do a lot of good things, and this is kind of a catalyst on 6th Avenue to really see some redevelopment in that area. So I think this is great. I also think it's, if I'm not mistaken, one of the submissions for the CDBG DR funding.
Yes.
And so I think it'll be back before us in a couple weeks to review it in that. And so with that, I will move 55A through D. I think it's a good project, and I'm happy to support it tonight.
I'll note as we vote that in addition to what Carol said and what Hallie said, we've got not only the 6th Avenue greening and corridor going on, we also have the Greening of America's Capitals project with the EPA going on there. So all the development that's going on up and down that corridor, I think, is exciting and is returning that whole neighborhood to being that vital area that it was 100 years ago. So I think this all is very, very exciting, and look forward to working with the neighborhood and all the developers that have interest in the area.
7 yes.
Item 56, items regarding property at 2020 Highview Drive, Jet Parking Holdings, LLC, formerly owned by Elizabeth Ann Grask Revocable Trust, to allow the reuse of long-term parking for the airport, subject conditions. A is amending the Des Moines 2020 Community Character Land Use Plan to revise the future land use from low-density residential to commercial, auto-oriented, small-scale strip development. B is a hearing on the rezoning of the property from CO, commercial residential, to limited C2, general retail and highway-oriented commercial. C is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and D is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes. Is there anybody here to speak on this item? 2020 Highview Drive.
Good evening. My name is Caleb Smith. I'm from McClure Engineering Company, 1360 Northwest 121st in Clive. I'm here on behalf of Jet Parking LLC, and just wanted to add one thing. At the P&Z meeting, there was a lot of concern about stormwater off of this property. This is a reuse of an existing parking field, so we're trying to be as cognizant of that as we're going through the plan, but there was some concern as the property to the east. We have gone back and reevaluated our entire stormwater plan and how we were controlling that. We have submitted that to city staff. Staff is, from the meeting I had, was much more comfortable with our approach. We have re-notified the citizens, had a meeting last week with them, walked them through with how we are going to slow the stormwater to the east, and they seem much more comfortable with our approach now. It's obviously a site plan issue, but was very important as part of this rezoning conversation. So wanted to get up and let the mayor and council know that I think we have a better approach now and can go into more details, but we have reviewed that with the neighbors and stuff.
Did you, one of the neighbors was Connie?
Yes, she could not make it. We did meet with two gentlemen that were next door, and they said they were going to get hold of her. We gave her contact information so she could call us if she had any questions. We haven't heard anything, but.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you for that follow-up, because
Yeah.
I saw that was a
You bet.
concern.
You bet.
I'll move item 56A, B, and, was it C? D.
A, B, C, D.
I'll move all of the above.
Seven yes.
Item 57, on the Good Park Playground improvements, resolution approving the plan, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and designation of the lowest responsible bidder as Joyner Construction Company, Inc., Jeb Joyner, Vice President, $211,139. Council Communication Number 13-64. A is the approval of the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Anybody here to speak to this item?
Great project, I'll move 57.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the hearings at 5:32. And that'll take us to item 60. Item 60 is a review of the Zoning Board of Adjustment decision to grant a use variance to allow for outdoor storage of junk and salvage equipment at 2135 Scott Avenue. Roll call contains an alternative motions, and our reference is Council Communication Number 13-63. Is there anybody in the audience to speak to item 60 regarding junk and salvage equipment at 2135 Scott?
I'll move item 60.
All right.
Which? To uphold the zoning board of adjustment?
To uphold. Yes, to uphold. They voted to approve, right?
They've already approved it. Is your motion is to accept their?
Yes. Yep. I think this is one that we sent back a few weeks ago because they wanted.
Seven
make
yes.
sure it's the same one.
Item 61 is review of the Zoning Board of Adjustment decision to grant a use variance to allow the reuse of 2324 Southwest 9th Street for a plumbing and heating shop with an office, subject to conditions. The roll call contains an alternative motions. Council Communication Number 13-062. Is there anybody here to comment on item 61 regarding 2324 Southwest 9th Street?
I'll move item 61 to uphold the board of, the zoning board of adjustment. This is one we sent back as well.
Seven yes.
Item 62, the Des Moines Housing Services Department reduction in force. Council Communication Number 13-044. Anybody here to speak to this item? Mr. Manager, did you want to comment on this?
Mr. Mayor, council members, we did a workshop not too long ago talking about the impacts on our housing services department resulting from federal cuts in administrative funds. This action tonight to eliminate these positions is a byproduct of that action. It is not a happy thing to do. These, from everything I know, are good employees. We have great sympathy for the situation that we find them in, as well as ourselves. But unfortunately, I don't have better options for you right now other than reducing these positions and the associated expenses. As we go forward, and we are going forward to look for solutions, Doug Robing is working on that. Many of you were involved in it as well. We will continue to look for better solutions that avoid these kinds of actions. But at this point in time, this is an action that we are obligated to take to maintain the financial viability of the operation.
Mr. Manager and Council, I thought that maybe it might be appropriate if Mr. Omig would take the moment to talk quickly about the impact that this may have on our ability to service our public housing and Section 8 support, and whether this will impact the number of people that we can serve.
Thank you. Mayor, County members of the City Council, Doug Romig, Housing Services Director. The actions regarding the diminution of these positions provide us an opportunity to sustain our public housing operations and our central office funds. The further impact and further reductions within our Section 8 administrative funds is the area that is at a critical need for us to look at long-term funding solutions to sustain that part of our program. If we have to go into deeper cuts within the organization, or if there's further federal funding reductions, we will lose housing to the current number of families that we serve, which right now is over 4,000 households, 7,300 individuals, with a waiting list of over 5,300 families wanting to get or needing to get into the program.
And I asked Doug to reiterate that to everybody, because I think this is a very, very important program that serves all those that are least able to have the funds to get good housing, and it's appropriate for us to work for those folks. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to reach out to those individuals that are working on these programs so that we can get further support to find something for those 5,300 families that are still on a waiting list out there that I'm told at least is a decade away before we could hit the other end of it, and a lot of them falling off of it because they either move away or they just can't do it anymore. So, Doug, thank you for your continued work. We have a motion.
Move.
You know, it's really hard to take, but when they cut $400,000 off of our funding, and we're trying to stay viable to protect what we do have and be able to afford those people who are already there, there's not much more you can do.
6 yes, 1 no.
Item 63 is a bid from G&S Service, Inc. for an annual contract with 4 additional one-year renewal options to furnish towing, storage, disposition services of junk vehicles for use by the Neighborhood Inspection Division. Annual estimated revenues, $85,760.45. There were 4 bids mailed. There were 3 received back. This was continued from the January 28th, 2013 council meeting. And the reference here is Council Communication number 13-059. Mr. Manager, would you like to make a quick comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This was continued from your last meeting, as the mayor just noted, over a concern about the amount of the fees and the impact on the people that would pay those fees. We spent a lot of time examining this, and I want to share with you 5 key points. First is that please understand we have 2 kinds of towing contracts. One towing contracts is operated and managed by the police department that deals with illegal parkers. This towing contract operates through zoning enforcement, Phil Delafield's department, and essentially deals with junk cars. So these junk cars are cited by the zoning enforcement staff. They are given 2 notices. The owners are given 2 notices to have the cars voluntarily removed from the property. If the owner doesn't do it, then it goes through a legal process which ultimately allows us to take action and actually haul the cars away. So the fee is paid by the owner of the junk cars, but only after they have been given due process and advance notice, which allows them to deal with the cars on their own. A couple things about the fee amounts. The fee revenue that was reported in our last blue letter and is still today that would result from this back to the city is about $85,000. That's significant funds for us. But the fact is it cost us about $136,000 to handle the enforcement activities. So the cost to do this program is significantly more than the revenue that we derive from it. And by the way, that's That's a cost accounting that came from our finance department who worked with CD on it. Scott Sanders prepared that number working with Phil. And it's just the cost related to the enforcement of the junk vehicle portion of our ordinance. There's other zoning enforcement costs. If we weren't to receive that revenue, please understand that that cost then would be spread among everybody else. You'd have other people who were not part of the property, that didn't do anything wrong. They're just basically underwriting and subsidizing the removal of those cars. The last thing that I want to point out to this before I get to the recommendation is that the revenue that's used to support this activity is CDBG dollars, Community Development Block Grant dollars, federal dollars that we get that, as you know, funds a whole variety of things that benefit low and moderate income people in distressed areas of our city. The revenue we generate from this activity, the $85,000, is construed by federal law as program income. That means the revenue has to go back into the block grant program. So all of those activities that we fund with block grant, which by the way have had to be cut back because of cuts in federal funds, but that particular account is augmented by the revenues that we generate from this program. I think that's a great use for it, and to my way of thinking makes a key difference. Should you elect to go forward with the project as we've recommended it, I would offer two kinds of options. One is, based on the discussion last time, if you want us to go back and revise the criteria and rebid the project, that can be done. Our recommendation is to award it to GNS for a period of 1 year and then rebid the project at that time with new criteria which you could review and direct as you see fit. But the other alternative, as originally recommended, would be 4 one-year contracts. That would allow us to go forward. It wouldn't be back in front of you for that period of time. So those are the two options. My own view is that the recommendation is a sound one, but I do understand the issues that were raised before. And by the way, I did talk this over with many people, but one of which was Jeff Lester, and I don't want to speak for Jeff, but I think our discussion, just so you know, was that the fee amount here is a reasonable one. We have no intention of gouging people, of charging people some excessive amount. If I thought the fee was excessive, we wouldn't recommend it to you. That's not the case here, in our view. It's a reasonable fee amount. It is the highest among the ones that were selected, but it's reasonable given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And again, the key point for me is the revenue generated by this is less than the actual cost that it takes to manage this program. So, Mayor and council members, again, two options in my mind. One is to award it to GNS for a period of 1 year, direct us to rebid the project with new criteria. But if you see fit, the original recommendation was 4 one-year extensions. So,
Mr. Manager, could you go back and expand upon the notice that citizens are given? You said that there are 2 notices. So what's the time period? Is that a 30, 60, 90 day by the time they've exhausted all of their notices?
I'll try to cover this with the information I have, Phil and Sue Ann, but if I may need your help. There is a first notice which is sent out to all owners of the property giving 14 days to clean up notice. Then if that doesn't happen after it's been inspected, there's a second notice that goes out by regular mail and by certified mail. This time the owners are given an additional 10 days to clean up. And Phil, if that's an accurate characterization.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ellie, Bob?
I'll move the item 63. Rick, I appreciate your input. I do think it makes sense. Otherwise, we're subsidizing people's illegal behavior by having the rest of our taxpayers bear that cost, and I don't think that makes sense. I think, as the city manager pointed out, I think these are in line. I don't think they're gouging our citizens. But I also recognize that this is a willful disobedience of it's not they missed a sign and parked illegally. It's they disobeyed several warnings that had come to their attention. So I will move this item.
So is your motion to move it for 1 year, or?
I'm open either way. I would be fine with 4 years or 4 1-year extensions.
Mr. Manager, if he moves it as stated, it's an annual contract with 4 additional 1-year options. My sense would be we'll get a chance to review it at the end of the year and then decide if we want to renew.
Mr. Mayor, we would be happy to do that. So if you choose that option, we can give you a status report after 1 year. We can seek additional guidance from you, and if you want us to go out to rebid at that time, we could. That way, you'd have the option to go either way you wanted to go, but we'd certainly be able to do that if that was the council's will.
I would just go the 1 year, but I would recommend that we come back before the 1 year, not wait until after, because doesn't that automatically roll over into a second year then? I would ask that you come back to the council with a report and we have a chance to revisit the issue so that it falls within the timeline that does not allow it to automatically roll over.
That's the point.
If I could, maybe just a question for Jeff, if I could. If the council did the 4 one-year contracts and we brought it back after 1 year and the council wanted to rebid that with new criteria, that would be an option that they could choose at that time, is that correct?
I believe the way that the contract is drawn, and I haven't reviewed this myself, my staff did. I believe the way the contract is drawn, however, is that it's a mutual consent to the extension. So there would not be an automatic renewal.
1 year.
There would not be an automatic renewal of 1 year. Council would have to agree, and the provider would also have to agree for there to be an extension.
So this 1 year contract could actually be 15 months by the time we went through the process.
If council and the applicant were agreeable to extending on a month-to-month basis until council made a determination, that could be.
Okay.
Staff could also respond to council ahead of time such that council could make the decision at the 1 year period if that's their choice as well.
Okay.
And that would be my preference, is to do the 4 one-year extensions. That way we have the discretion to avoid this whole process over again and rebid it if everything's working well. But we also have the option to rebid it if we're not happy.
Good.
So that would be my recommendation.
Only way I could support it if it's just a 1 year and have staff come back with different criteria, and that is how we're going to go forward. We got to cover our losses, I realize that. But I just want to make sure that after that 1 year, we have another opportunity to see how the others are going to bid.
I think that's how Helly structured his motion.
He had for 4 years, I thought.
Well, we would.
No. We got 1 year with 4-year options. We're going to come back and look at it. We could go without going through this process again, or if we decide it's not working, we could throw it back again. Okay?
Six yes, 1 no.
All right. Unfortunately, all those that were waiting to stay here till 10 o'clock, that brings us to the end of the agenda. And I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Do you want me to read more of the memo on reviews?
That's okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We sit adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Why don't you write me